Yes people, welcome to my channel, welcome to the video. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you're well from wherever you're watching. Please consider subscribing, and if my videos help you out in any way, please hit that like button. Today I'm going to take you through the mixer. We've gone through the channel rack and we've also gone through the playlist. Let's get started. So I'm just starting off from where we left off from last week, and we've got the channel rack here, the playlist and the mixer. I'm just going to maximize the mixer now before we go into what you can do with it, and then I will take you into the different controls. So on the mixer, that's this icon here. To bring it up, you can maximize it, you can minimize it, you can also make it detached. So if you have another screen, you can take it off screen and move it to another screen. That's for the placement of the window. I'm going to take you through how it's actually going to help you. So along the top here, it tells you we're on the mixer, and it tells you which channel we're on. So we're on the master, and then if anything's named on there, if you want to see what's highlighted and which channel selected. If we go to here, this is a multi-touch control. I believe that's for touch screens. This will change your signal to waveform. So if we play the track now, you'll see there's bars. And then if I move to the waveform and hit play, that's now showing it in waveform. This is to view extra volume settings. I will show you what that does there. This is called a track inspector, but it's where your slots are, so you can move that from the left to the right. This is your view, so we can change from compact, and it's all different settings, to wide, and they all show different things. So if we go to extra large on here, what this does is this shows you all the plugins that's used on that track. So that's very useful if you just want to scan and see what channels are you using, what effects on there. So that's your top menu here. So if we go to the options over here, we've got disc recording, and this will be for when you're recording your vocals, your view options. We've just seen how to do the detached. You can rename and color the channel tracks. File, which is changing the mixer state. So if you have a list of plugins that you've got, like a preset, for example, of your own, you can save the mixer state. So if you have your vocal chain, for example, and you like the effects that you've got on your vocals and you know you're going to be using those every time again, you can save that and then select open mixer track state and then drag that in, and it will have all the plugins with all the options you've selected. You've got different options already here. The states, open audio editor, that will bring up Edison, so you can manipulate audio in here. You can record audio directly in here. Whenever you edit an audio clip, if it's not selected on its own track, then it will always go to the master. But yeah, that's one of the plugins there. We've got reset selected track to default, so if you've made any changes and then you don't want anything assigned to that track, you can reset it and it will cancel out everything on there. It's quicker to do that. Channel routing, I will show you what that is in a moment. And select channels. Solo tracks, that will just solo that one track, but you can do that by right clicking on it and it will solo, and you can do that on any track. And once you've soloed, you can add them by right clicking and doing that on there. We've got separators here. Now what the separator is good for is if you're creating groups. So we've put a separator there and it's always to the left. And then we've also got the groups. As I said, you can hold control and select multiple and it will highlight them all. We can create group, and let's say we call this drum, and now it's labeled them all as drum, and that's created its own group, and it's added a separator there as well, if you can see. And what that will also do is if you create the group and then auto color group, let's say we pick blue, that's auto colored them all into blue. If we select one and change color to orange, let's say, and we've got that, if you select the one that you want the color of and auto color group, it will change them all to that color. We've also got dock to left, middle and right. So most of the time you'll have your master on the left, on the right will be the default buses that are there, and in the middle will be your normal mixer tracks. So that's about it for these options here. If I take you through this now here, so you've got the input. So once you've got your mic, if you have your mic, it will be in here your mic inputs. I've shown you how to set up your controller and the different options in my other guide, so feel free to check those out if you're unsure. But yeah, usually if you've got a microphone plugged in, 1 is mono, as you can see there, 1 and 2 is stereo. If you're recording vocals with 1 mic, you want to record in mono most of the time. You've got your effects slots here, so you've got 10 slots that you can choose from the effects. So if you click on the drop down arrow, it will tell you what effects you can add. So if you want to add an EQ, then you've got your EQ here, and then if you want to add a reverb, you've got your reverb here. Now you can also move these up and down, so you can right click on this and move up or down, but you can also scroll. So if you hover over the one you want and scroll, it will move it up or down. So within each plugin, you've got your own effects of what you want to do. So for example, on the reverb, you've got your dry signal, which is your original source, and the wet, which is the effect that it's adding. But this dial here, this is how much of that plugin will be applied. So at the moment it's on 100%. You can see in the top left corner here, and we can drag that to how much you want. You can also create automation clips with this. So if you've got a plugin with an effect that you want and you want it to gradually build up, you can right click on this and create automation clip, and you can also link to the controller, as I've shown you guys before how to do that as well. So these are where you add all your effects, and as I say, for scrolling sometimes it might sound different or better. You've got an equalizer here, so if you just want to cut out all the lows on one track, you can do that from here. I personally don't use this EQ here. I use the parametric EQ anytime I want to do it, but I suppose if you definitely want to just cut out everything, then you can use it from here. This is the track latency, so you can set it in milliseconds, samples, beats, etc. And this is your output. So if you've got multiple sets of monitors, for example, or different audio interfaces, you can change which audio interface you want it to come out of. If it's set to none, it will be the default, and again this will apply to every single track unless you change it on the master. You see the master set to out and the other ones are set to none because they're feeding into the master, which is what I'm going to go on to next. So if you see, you've got these connections into the master, so every one has a faint line, but it's ultimately connected into this master. So if we get rid of that, it goes, and you click that, it's back in. And this is again how much level is going into there. So that's at 100%. We can right click it and hit reset. We can type in the value, copy the value. This is great if you want to match sounds. Now the reason you would use this is, for example, if you're creating a bus, we will call this dry vocal, we'll call this wet vocal, and then we create this as our vocal bus. So we've got our dry vocal, wet vocal, and the vocal bus. At the moment, they're all going into the master. So if we unplug that from there, we can connect it now into the vocal bus. There's a quicker way of doing this as well. So we can click this and unclick that. So that's exactly how it was first. You can hold control, go to the end one that you want. So if we right click on this one and go to track routing, you can route selected to this track, route selected to this track only. So if you do route selected to this track, it will still keep it in the master and as well plug it into this vocal bus. If we do to this track only, it will send all the signal into that track only. If we use sidechain, what that will do is it will create a link to that channel, but that's mainly useful when you're trying to create buses in terms of wet and dry mixes. So if we select sidechain to this track only, I'll show you what that does. So that's created that link there, but there'll be no signal going into that. But if we turn that up, that's basically a normal track in there. So we can go to reset, that will put it to the right volume, and that would be the same where you've got the option there as track routing, route to this track only. And you see, so what the benefit of that is, you can add your effects into each individual and set your volumes in each individual track, but then you've got an overall volume control and effects control that will apply to everything that's connected into it. If we have a look into the track settings here, so on here you have your panning left and right. This is the fader for the volume. It gives you a little indicator there, and it also tells you up in the left where it's at when you're clicking and dragging, so it'll tell you how much volume you're feeding into that track. You've got your swap left and right channels, reverse polarity on here, and this is your stereo separation. So if you move to the left, it's 100% separated, and if you move to the right, it's 100% merged. So that's basically mono. If you turn it to right, that's mono. Most people do that for the kicks and bass, etc. This option here, it's not highlighted because there's no effects on it at the moment. But if you use this basically bypasses all the effects on there. And that is the track latencies that you've set on the time. Yeah, that's how you set up a bus and use the track elements on there. You can right click on these and link to controllers again, so you can control them with your MIDI controller. You can create automation clips. You can right click on these and name them. We've shown you that. If you want to get your audio tracks into the mixer, then you would click on here and you've got different options here. So if we bring this window here, you can either click and drag and it will go into here. If we hit track, it will put it in there. Another tip you can do, so if we clone this one, for example, we'll reset this one. If we select whichever audio one we want, we can go to a mixer channel and hit Control and L, and that's now linked it to that mixer track. And you can do that with multiple. So if we go back to this, and let's just clone a load of these just to show you, and I can set these back to 0. And then if we hold Control and click and drag, we've got them selected. You can right click, go to channel routing and route selected channels to this track. So it will put them all in there, or starting from this track, then it will add them all individually. So now we've got all 3 there. And that's about it for the mixer. I'm sure there'll be a lot more you guys want to know, but please leave a comment and I will get back to you. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye bye.